Stories Podcast, your number one show for everything guitar.
Hello? Can anybody hear us? Can we hear Dan?
Good evening.
Yeah, Dan's there. Hello, mate. How are you doing?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm a little stressed because nothing went right with the. We spent so much time this week sorting it out. We even had a dress rehearsal last night, and I got a shirt on and everything, and I did my hair, and apparently there's a stutter going on, and I have no idea why.
Like you're underwater.
So yeah, I don't know why, guys. Dan is wearing headphones. I'm wearing headphones. Browne is over here on Skype. In fact, if I do this, we might be able to see Browne. Hello, Browne.
Hello. I'm about to add another technical difficulty to your to the pile. Is that I can't actually hear Dan.
Oh, well, that's very interesting, sir. So people can hear us, but there's a stutter. I have no idea why. It might be because if you're really interested in technical stuff, we're using a thing called OBS Ninja to bring Dan in, and a thing called Skype to bring Browne in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of Dan from OBS Ninja and bring him in via Skype as well. Let's see if this is going to work.
All right.
I tell you what, this is working so nicely until we invited John Browne to the party.
No, yeah, I mean, let's be honest. England has been a nightmare for a couple of years now, hasn't it?
Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's Brexit. It's the fact that you're not. It's all those EU internet vibes.
Is it because you've not requested an EORI code or a pager import duty on
Oh dear. Let me just get rid of Dan in there. And there we go. And then Dan's Skype. Let's see if any of this works. So let's add Dan to the Skype chat. And then Browne, you should be able to hear my friend if he accepts, if he wants to rejoin the party.
Oh yes, I can hear.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, but are you sure your speakers aren't on, Dan? Because as soon as you rejoined, things started going funny.
Nothing. Well, one second. My cell phone is still active. I can hear you wonderful.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
People in the chat let us know if things are going on right. John Browne has gone small.
It's all good. What she said.
We've got a mini John. So is it cold where you are, John?
It's actually freezing, and I'm in the bit north of England where it doesn't stop raining.
Let me just fix this, because now we're back to Skype means I've got to deal with a whole load of stuff.
I'm sorry for your day today. Difficult.
Mate, if it's not you, it's someone else, you know. Use the precision adjustment tool, the hammer.
That's good. That was good.
It's good. That's my favourite tool. If you've only got one tool, make sure it's a hammer. So.
Shit, that's wrong.
There we go.
Whoa, look at that. Hey. I'm leaving it there. I mean, it doesn't look as pretty as it did earlier, but it works. Very bad sound, people are telling us. That's awful. I'm very sorry. It's echo, it's choppy, and I don't know why.
But Andy's going to be like the last mile. Ours pretty stable. You loud and clear. John.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It sounds great. That's great. Me too.
Bear with us, people, while Andy tries to sort this out. Nothing has changed at all in any of the settings. Apparently the audio is trying to mimic John's staccato riffs.
Right. really, what was amazing technology where we can literally do anything we want. But they never tell you that it's going to be this much difficulty to actually do it.
I don't mind paying like a reasonable amount per month if someone says that all works, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I've put hours and hours and blood and sweat and tears and calls to Dan all the time into this, and it still don't work. Guys and gals and everybody, I have no idea what to do. The only thing I can do is stop the stream and making sure it doesn't exit, and then rejoin the stream again in a second. So people in the chat, we are aware that the sound is awful. I'm just letting them know that, because all I see is people complaining about the sound.
Did you try switching it on and off?
Really? we're at that stage, are we? Right. Let's just see. I am going to stop the stream. We'll be back. Do not leave the chat. The stream will restart in this chat. So Dan will be keeping you entertained in the text chat, and I'll be going off for a little cry and then coming back. Wait. Seamlessly do this. Seamlessly. No. Well, as long as you can see you, mate, that's all that matters. I think we're coming back. We'll find out if the audio is. It says excellent connection, so let's find out if that is true.
That's a lie. It's a lie.
It does say excellent connection. Hello, everybody. I can see that chat now. I'm going to check the stream on my
They say
thing.
it's better. They say it's better. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
heck
yeah.
yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Right. Hello. Welcome to the Guitar Stories podcast. Yes. Welcome me, Andy Ferris. Thank you very much, Andy. And, of course, Dr. Dan. And with us already is John Browne. Hey, everybody.
second charm.
So I'm still going to be pressing buttons for a second whilst I fix this. But Browne, how are you, my friend?
I'm actually doing well. Pretty well. I want to say it was a good start to 2021, but it was a good start to 2021. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thanks, mate. Dan, how are you, mate?
I'm also pretty good. I get some echo. People telling us. Dan is in delay pedal, they tell me.
There we go. I've just fixed that.
All right. Awesome.
It's funny.
I'm in the process of pressing 1,000 buttons all at the same time.
It's funny. This is actually the first time that.
Sorry, you
fixed it. Success.
You were saying?
This is the first time that me and Dan have actually spoken face to face.
Then I'll leave you alone. Hang on.
Hey, that's a nice Strat you got on the wall over there, mate. What you got over there?
Which one? Oh, that one.
Yeah.
That's a Jet Guitars JT 450.
Oh yeah, that's quite nice, isn't it?
How much do you reckon that is?
200 quid, 300 quid.
Pretty close, yeah. Think about 340, 350.
I knew the only reason that I guessed that amount is because you said guess how much that is.
Yeah, but roasted neck, roasted.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
Pickups aren't that great, but great guitars.
All you need to do is pick harder, mate. You'll be good.
Yeah, I learned. You gave me a lesson once, and that's what I mainly took away from it.
Yes. You
just play as hard as you can. Actually, what kind of pick do you use? Because I was trying to learn some metal and failing with the tone, but getting my right hand going. And what pick do you use?
I tend to just use a 1mm Jim Dunlop nylon max grip. That was quite a lot of words, wasn't it?
This one.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Then I nailed it.
exactly. The main reason I use that is because it doesn't slip. So it's one material that actually grips to my hand. I can't trust a guitar player that uses Tortex picks because I don't understand how they can keep hold of them.
Me neither. They just slide out of my sweaty little mitts.
Especially on stage, when you've, spilt beer all over your hands or, wiped your forehead for, one little bit because you got sweat dripping into your eyes. And then I have no idea how anyone can hold on to that pick.
I can't. It's not possible.
It's definitely not possible, but it's good that you're using the same picks. That means you're along the right lines, or you saw what I was using at 42 Gear Street.
No, I genuinely asked. I wasn't trying to. I also used this one, the Flow.
Oh yeah, they're good. Yeah.
There's quite a bit of a grip on that one, so I use that one, or the one you're using, Max Grips. But when I discovered Max Grips, my life absolutely changed.
It was like a revelation happened, wasn't it? It's like, this is like having an extra bit of fingernail. It's not moving.
I remember going around and people were like, look at this, hold that, try and drop it. Go on, try and drop it. You can't drop it.
The big missionary man, nice.
It definitely still spins around in my fingers, but just not as much. Depends how, how hard I'm hitting that day, generally. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you tried stuff like Gorilla Snot, like that, that sticky, gooey stuff that can stick it to you?
Is it called Gorilla Snot?
Yeah, it's called Gorilla. I'm pretty sure it's called Gorilla Snot. Either that, or I dreamed it up and I'm about to release a new product.
That sounds like the perfect business idea, mate.
Thanks. Just need to tame some gorillas.
No, I've never tried that stuff, actually. I've never really experimented with stuff like that, fast fret and stuff like that. I've never really tried it. That makes sense. I don't know why. Yeah, I should. Gorilla Snot. Okay, I'll try it.
Yeah, try it. It's or not, up to you. So I feel back on track. I've made a sort of zen for myself now that I've stopped seeing complaints rolling up the chat. I can't hear you. And I know I really appreciate you guys watching. Just give a guy a break. We know what the problem was. The problem was Brexit. That's the problem.
It's been the problem of everything for the past couple of years, but
just blame it.
We'll just blame it on Brexit because it's the easiest option at this point, isn't it?
Yeah. What I could do, we've got some kind of news because there is so much new products this week. I genuinely can't keep up with how much has gone on in the guitar release because of NAMM, I guess, Dan. What's your take on that?
It was a crazy week, basically. And I might disagree a little bit because we had some big news regarding Gibson and Mesa Boogie.
Oh yeah,
that was quite a big topic, but also a lot of news. And given that NAMM is not happening at the moment, all the companies, they go online. They have social media events, live streams, and whatsoever. So that was pretty amazing to see what's their plan B for a kind of virtual NAMM, or kind of to release that happening, basically. So yeah, I'm super curious to hear what you picked. So we decided to kind of narrow it down to only a handful of picks. So that'll be interesting to see what you thought was the most interesting gear being released.
When Dan said pick, then we picked some favorite gear of releases, but it's also a play on the word, the fact that guitar picks,
Yeah.
So that might be confusing for some of us, including me right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What I'm going to try and... No, I was trying to be clever, and I just realized I've screwed myself.
No, that's good.
I'm going to try and put John into the news of OBS like this, and I'm going to stop calling Browne John as well before he punches me through the screen. Got it written here. Don't call John, call him Browne. Okay.
Too many Johns on Earth. That's all it is.
Yeah, there's only one Browne with an E. So, what am I doing? Right. We've got a little video. Right, this is the news. Forgive me while I add John. I mean Browne. I genuinely got it wrong then. Right, I'm going to stick you, if you don't mind, right up there on top of that amp. How's that?
I feel
Here he
like
is. Look at him up there. So, what we have is some picks of the week. I've got 3 picks, and I think Dan's got one or two, one big one. So, for gear this week, here's my pick of the week.
Andy's pick of the week.
So, my first pick of the week is John Browne has vanished again. Is Fender, because Fender have absolutely released loads of products. Fender, Squier, everything. Look at all these wonderful guitars.
A lot of P90 action.
Yeah, so that's the I can't even remember what they've called it because this podcast has thrown me right off. The Noventa series, Noventa Strat, Noventa Tele, and Noventa Jazzmaster. But that's going to scroll around and around and around. That is the new Squier Contemporary series. That's a whole bunch of Fender-y kind of things at the same time. I am not going to shy away from the fact that I'm a huge fan of what Fender do, especially when they do kind of weird stuff. I've got a Fender 66. I've got the Squier Paranormal series. I love it. Dan, what's your take on these?
They're pretty interesting, actually. I was excited to see the P90 offerings because you don't get a lot of P90. Yeah, you don't get a lot of P90s usually. So those kind of, I think they started with the Parallel Universe series and now the Noventa. I hope it's pretty good. And actually, it's a funny kind of creation of the name of the series because if you spell it with a D instead of a T, like Novenda, it's like they don't sell. Novenda. I hope they sell because it's a pretty cool series. And I like the colors too. I like that kind of what's it called, like burst finishes, like white to blue burst and stuff like that. That's pretty rad.
I like
actually,
how pastel-y. I like how pastel-y the colors are. It gives me a 50s and 60s kind of American cars.
I'm digging that Tele with the single P90. I think that is absolutely phenomenal. I'd love to see that in the flesh. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's red or orange though. I keep thinking orange, and then I see it again next to something else, and it looks red. But there's a nice sparkle finish there.
Absolutely, and I'm extremely excited. It's like a renaissance of the Telecaster at the moment. All the companies, they're kind of reviving the Teles with different options and very modern specs, or super retro specs, being P90s and surf colors. It's like you get Teles everywhere.
It's quite interesting. That more guitar companies don't use the P90, and actually I want to expand on that and say that guitar players also don't really respect the P90 and definitely the more modern styles. To me, it's the most aggressive sounding pickup. It's like the best part of a humbucker and a single coil together. It's got that openness and but still the aggression. I find them way more aggressive than humbuckers personally. The only issue is that when you play in a loud metal band, you get a lot of noise, which isn't nice.
What about like a P100, like a stacked P90? Have you tried those?
I play 7 and 8 string guitars, so the or a 7-string P90 is kind of minimal. I know bare knuckle do them, a couple of other companies do them, but I haven't really experimented with 7-string versions of them, but I do have 2 guitars with P90s in here, 6 strings actually.
I reckon I could sort you out with a 7-string stacked P90.
Oh yeah, please.
I have a friend who makes awesome pickups in Germany, and he's into really making like slightly off the wall stuff.
Okay.
I will. Maybe he's watching actually. If not, I'll try and remember. Or remind me later on, and I'll send him a message. But that sounds like the sort of thing that I want to see you do.
Dude, I love P90s as I find them amazing. It's just instantly aggressive the moment that you turn it on. And
it's that bite, isn't it? It's got such a rock and roll bite. But I don't know. I'm with you. P90s are where it's at. Absolutely.
100%. And I want to say that these Fender guitars do look pretty sick.
Yeah.
Well. Like that Jazzmaster with the trem on it looks good.
Yeah. Triple P90. That telly is calling me, but not every company is doing Telecasters, Dan. Some have not yet. Some have left that out, but you never know what we might see in the future. So, NAM is not happening, but everything else is. So my next pick of the week, if I may, if I get rid of that Fender one, is this from Reverend.
Wow. Nice.
And naturally, it's the 6-gun HPP. So it's the more P90 action.
Like the Wilkinson Trem.
Yeah. Got a lot of time from Wilkinson gear.
Yeah. That's a very cool guitar. It's reminds me a little bit, I know it's the wrong way round, but a Mosrite a little bit.
Yeah.
Like in its styling. Maybe it's just the P90s, I don't know, but it's a very cool shape, very retro, very you, Andy.
Thanks. Well, I may have sent an email to Reverend today, and they may have said we'll try and get you one. You never know.
Oh, wow.
But in case you're wondering, that's not one guitar that changes color. That's 4 guitars that are scrolling around on a really fast media source. Dan, which one is if you had to choose, which one is your favorite color of that?
It's difficult. I really like the baby blue because I'm such a sucker for those kind of surf colors. Mm-hmm. But the black one is also pretty classy, and the green's got something to it too. And not just maybe not the sunburst one, but the black one is cool, and I like the green one.
Browne?
But I have to pick one, blue.
I'd actually have to go for the black one. I, for some reason, don't like green guitars for the most part, unless it's like neon colored.
Right.
All right.
like it's the lost child from the 80s or something. The black one's cool. I actually probably like the sunburst one more than Dan. Then the baby blue's cool as well, but the color blue, I find that it's just used a little bit too much for the most part. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a safe color, isn't it? Blue.
Yeah.
Even Dan's wearing a shirt right now. You know what I'm saying?
The one that grabbed my eye first of all was the green one, because it was the first picture I saw. Then everything else I had to sort of judge against that color. So even though I like the black, it wouldn't work in my studio and doesn't really work for me. It doesn't show up, so I have to look at it from that side. So that's one down, but I cannot choose between the other 3. But I think it's green or baby blue.
Do you know what would make the green look better, in my opinion? The pick guard being black.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be more fitting. Yeah, agreed.
So that black pick guard.
Andy's got that pick guard kind of thing going on. He's never satisfied with the stock pick guard.
Never.
You know how to get out of that? You just get a guitar that doesn't have one.
Oh, there it go. Yeah.
like that telly with the P90 from Fender, the orange one.
It has a pick guard on it though, doesn't it? It's just a little one.
Does it? Hang on, let's find out.
Yes.
Oh, we got Reverend.
Oh, there you go.
It does have a black pick guard. Oh, that's fine. That works very well.
It's all right, Andy. You can change that to white, tortoiseshell.
Take it off. Tortoiseshell. Right. Sorry. Get out. Accidentally. Right. And I've got one more pick of the week. If I can find the button, because now everything is topsy-turvy. Goodbye, Reverend. Thank you, Reverend. It's this from Court.
Oh, Court.
Interesting.
Multiscale.
And I've forgotten what it's called. But
it's called
it's called the what?
The Court.
The Court. If anyone knows what that's called in the chat, let me know, because I've absolutely fluffed it. It's called the
X700, right?
X700 Mutility.
Uh-huh.
And it was designed in conjunction with Prodigy Headrush. That's hard to say.
Oh, Headrush. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah.
24.75 inch to 25.5. Multi-scale roasted maple neck fretboard, stainless steel frets, Fishman
nice.
Fluence modern humbuckers, 2 voices due to a push-pull function on the volume, split the humbuckers with a push-pull on the tone, blade control for the pickups. I have a lot of time for it. I think it might be affordable as well.
Mm. That reminds me a bit of the Axiom labels that we did. I think that's like a sandwich body with ash and Neato or some kind of mahogany equivalent wood. So it's something we discussed earlier this week. Like I was talking with Andy, we were discussing that the lines between the brands are blurring a little bit more.
Yeah.
And everyone is kind of borrowing ideas from this brand, and they mix it all together, and then you have a nice blend and a new kind of flavor that's inspired by this and inspired by that, and I think that's totally fine.
I think so too. Like my one gripe actually about this guitar is I'm not actually the biggest fan of the bevel being where you see the bottom of the body and then the top is just part of the top. I don't know why. I'm really not into it. I prefer almost to a degree the flat tops. I think it's just because I grew up with Strats. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The flat top Stratocaster look. But I mean, I think that guitar looks great. The fluences look massive in it.
They do, don't they?
And I'm guessing
interesting.
It's a 6-string guitar, but with 7-string pickups, right?
I don't know, but
assume
it looks like it, yeah, because that's how they've angled them.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is that it's not multi-scale, like it's more like a slanted fret, because like the first frets, they're not going in both directions. No. Like the first couple frets, they are pretty much straight, and then it angles a little bit towards the neck humbucker.
That's totally dependent on the size of the fan. Do you know what the scale length is, Andy?
Yeah, I just, where is it there? We've got 24 3/4 to 25.5 multi-scale roasted maple neck.
That is really interesting because I understand why they've done it. They want the Gibson scale on the highest strings because it's slightly sweeter. Mm-hmm. But that's probably why the first fret is so, just vertical. When you're seeing the Novak system or the fan fret system, we're normally seeing it on like Dingwall, which is like 37 to 34. Yeah, which is a really big fan, especially when it comes to bass. But that is literally 3/4 of an inch. That's what she said.
All right, that time already.
Basically, what I'm saying is it's not the biggest of fans to. So yeah, I can understand why it would only do it towards the higher end of the guitar. Yeah, it almost seems almost slightly pointless.
What do you mean? The fact that it's fanned?
Yeah. For 3/4 of an inch. I mean, yeah, I guess the high frets would sound a little bit sweeter for solos, but
for me, I don't own a multi-scale guitar, but I love the way they feel on to hold and to bar chords. I love the feel. I think it's an evolution for me of the guitar. I've never really looked into the tone of it. I haven't got that far on that journey with that kind of instrument. But the reason I picked this guitar is because, like you, Browne, I much prefer flat colors and flat tops. And when I see like a fancy burl or something, it just doesn't quite. I don't quite dig it very much. I'm more into my flat tops. However, looking at this guitar, the guitar genuinely appeals to me. The look, maybe it's gradually creeping in, So there's that fancy top. It's creeping in at the top, and then next year someone will release from some at the bottom, and suddenly I won't be ever able to play a flat top guitar again, and I'll be into these fabulously ornate tops.
I do understand why you like the look of it. I really like the shape of the horns on it. Actually, I think it's pretty cool. It's obviously inspired by the Strat, but it looks a little bit different. But maybe that's just because it's against the white background. It might be interfering with my my vision a little bit. I'm not taking the mickey out of you for putting on a white background, by the way, Andy. No, it's a cool guitar for sure. I mean, it'll be definitely worth trying for sure.
I can fix that. I can't. I'm not going to press a button that doesn't need to be pressed. Yeah, so that's my picks. Before we go to Dan's picks, I'd like to just say a little bit about our sponsor. So Browne is going to pop off for a second, and he'll be back in just a moment. This is our sponsor, Dan. It's Amplitube 5 from IK Multimedia. I've been playing it recently. I know Dan hasn't, because Dan still... I haven't remembered to send him the cereal that I owe him. But... somebody is going to win a cereal. It could even be you, Dan, tonight.
Awesome.
Good luck. Someone's going to win a cereal because we've got 4 cereals to give away in the month of January. Amplitube 5 are sponsoring us the entire month, and we have a special way of doing it. We'll come back to it later, shall we, Dan?
All right, cool.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much because it's time for Dan's Pick of the Week.
Dan's Pick of the Week. Dan's Pick of the Week.
Browne is back.
Awesome.
Hey, Browne.
Actually, that was Andy's voice that you just heard. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was something I cooked up in a 4 or 5 hour recording session this morning.
All right, my
Browne and
pick.
Dan can't actually hear it. Yeah, your pick. I've just got to actually switch to this.
Dan's Pick of
This scene.
Again.
Sorry.
Yep.
Again. Sorry, people. Buttons are all over the place now. I do apologize. That is Dan's pick, and I'm going to bring in Browne just there.
There
Oh,
he
Dan.
is. Yeah.
Over to you, sir.
My pick. I'm taking over. So this week, like I said, instead of attending NAMM show, ESP Ltd, they had a couple of live streams. One happening right now, I think. One happened last night, and one is happening tomorrow. And last night they announced the reissue of ESP and LTD's Kirk Hammett signature model, the KH3. And I mean, it's not the fanciest model apart from the Spider graphics, but what makes it so special and why I picked it is that it was like the guitar of my wet dreams when I was a child. And I was always the Ibanez guy, but there was that one guitar from my hero in Metallica. It was, of course, James Hetfield, and it was Kirk Hammett, and I love the Spider. It's just a great guitar. And seeing that guitar being reissued with some updated specs, like the EMG Bonebreaker pickups that Kirk Hammett's playing lately, and also slightly updated Spider graphics is pretty cool. And thanks to the people at Axe Palace, we saw some leakage a little bit earlier yesterday, even before the stream. So we're aware that there will be 2 versions: the ESP version that is custom shop made and will clock in, I think, at €6,000 in euros. I know what the US price is, so it's super pricey. But there will also be a little LTD version of it that will be, I think, around $1,500, $1,600, and that comes basically with the same specs, apart from the EMG pickups that do not bear the KH signature. But apart from that, they're pretty close. I think one is, Indonesian or Korean made, and the other one, of course, is Japanese custom shop. So depending what your wallet says, you can go either for option A or option B. So, yeah. And that was like a personal pick for me because there was so many news this week. It was just overwhelming, and Andy was already kind of filtering everything. But that guitar being, like I said, one of the most beloved guitars from my heroes when I was like 12 or 15, it was just my natural pick. So, yeah.
Where's the headstock?
Where's the headstock? Yeah, well, the headstock's
it's
super ugly, but it's just like part of how those guitars look like. But here's a funny side fact. I think in Japan, they sold the first bunch of KH3s actually with the open book kind of headstock. So the headstock itself was not wider, but at least on the upper part of it, where it ends, they kind of mimicked that kind of open book look of the Gibson guitars.
See, that would
But
that would definitely make it look better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I think Gibson would probably argue that ESP users should not play authentic.
Oh man, alive! I'm with Browne on that. It looks great until you get to the headstock. Then it for me it looks cheap, and $6,000 is not cheap. However, I wasn't a fan of Metallica back then. I wasn't into that guitar, and I can see absolutely, and I agree with you that as a teenage wet dream guitar, go for it. But $6,000, that is insane.
Yeah. But it's cool that it's been reissued, and usually those kind of limited editions, they are super rare. But I've been told that the ESP version is also being sold in unlimited quantities. So, depending on how much money you want to spend on an ESP or LTD, you can either go for the original or for the cheaper import version of it. They look both sweet, so that's pretty cool.
I do like it. I don't dislike it. It's just I'm thrown off by the price. Like, that's insane.
It's like otherworldly. It's just.
So when's
Especially
yours
if you-
arriving, Dan? When is yours arriving?
I'm not spending $6,000 on a Cage 3. Not happening. Not happening.
You must know people. You must.
I do.
It'd probably go up in value though if you did buy one. You know, something that you
Yeah.
keep in the case. You know, instead of like having your money in the bank, just think, I want a KH3. Just leave it in the case, admire it for a couple of minutes a day, put it back in its case, and then in a couple of years' time, some Metallica fan will come along and offer you $20,000 for it.
I'm not sure. Actually, I got more Ibanez guitars that I can admire. It's just like it's kind of nostalgica. It's just Metallica nostalgica.
Nostalgic. I like that.
Yeah.
So is it something you would purchase, Dan, or is it just like, could you put a picture up of it instead, and would that do the same for your nether regions?
All right. Full disclosure: when I was a child, I had a SA160, a black Ibanez Sabre guitar, and when you purchased the Binge and what was the name, Binge Purge and whatever Metallica kind of live show box, they had a little spider emblem that you could take out, and I actually sprayed it over and put it on my guitar, so I had that kind of same spider look on my SA160 back in the day. So I think probably a printout would do too. It's just to remind me of the good old days when Metallica was everything,
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand those words.
Yeah, I can tell from the look at his face. I mean,
No, it just didn't click for me. It clicks now. I really like. What's my favorite album is Saint Anger. The snare on that is amazing. Sorry.
Fair. The songs on that album are quite good.
yeah.
But
I only know from internet memes. It's fine. I am trying. Actually, Browne, 2021 is a year that I'm getting into metal, which is one of the reasons we've asked you to join today, because I want to pick your brain and your arms and your fingers. But
With a saw.
yeah, it's starting to appeal. So maybe I go backwards, because there are many bands I wasn't into Johnny Cash for a long time, or Hendrix. I didn't get Hendrix till I was in my 20s. So I know it's going to come probably sometime between now and death. But I hope it happens. And when it does happen, $6,000, baby. So we have some news, but I guess it's just so much news. I mean, I want to go straight to Browne, if we don't mind, Dan, and we can talk about news with Browne. So let's go straight over there to the main guest scene. There he is, John Browne, Riff Hard Monuments, on the Guitar Stories podcast. Hello, sir.
hello. Thanks for having me on. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
We are pretty
is what it is.
consistent with our technical difficulties.
It's the problem with OBS. Like it just it works, and then you turn it off and on again, and then it doesn't.
Yeah. What I like is that I was so sure that it was going to go swimmingly today. So sure. And then it didn't. And I thought, that's life. That's life.
I even came on to make sure that I prepared by making sure it worked, and then all of a sudden it didn't.
It is what it is. You're here now. You are free for the evening. You're all ours, and we have many, many questions, namely about your guitar story and your history with guitars.
Okay.
Dan, have you got any immediate questions for Browne? Because Browne and I have spoken a few times and chatted and made videos, but I guess you guys haven't.
No.
No, we haven't. No. But I was actually a big admirer of like what he did, not just with Riff Hard, but also he went with Manus and kind of created those super vibrant signature guitars. I always have been a big fan of him and of his gear too. So it's pretty cool to have him on the podcast for episode 24. Thanks for coming.
Hey, thank you very much. It's much appreciated. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you like the guitars.
Yes. So maybe because we're called the Guitar Stories podcast, maybe we kind of outline your personal guitar story. Like, when did you basically start with playing the guitar in a serious way?
The kind of, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? The trigger point, let's say, for what really begun for me wanting to play the guitar was I actually heard Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer, believe it or not, on VH.
Wow.
Yeah, that was kind of like the catalyst for it. The weirdest thing is that I knew what a guitar was before that, but I'd never really understood what an electric guitar was. I had like acoustic guitars from about the age of 6. So my uncle introduced me to like Bob Dylan, started playing a little bit of acoustic guitar, got some guitar lessons, played some classical guitar. And then I was even listening to Basket Case by Green Day when I was 7, but I still, for some reason, didn't really think of what an electric guitar was. So I think it was the Bon Jovi song, and I saw him, Richie Sambora dancing around on this cable with a guitar, and I was like, I want to do that. And then that was amplified further when I watched Wanted Dead or Alive, and I saw them on a jet plane. I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to play guitar and have my own jet. It's like, oh. The 80s. It's gone. But yeah, that was it. I was about 12 years old, I want to say. And then my parents, for my 13th birthday, bought me a Westfield Stratocaster with a Marshall MG10 amplifier.
There you go.
And I couldn't play very well. Yeah, I mean, it was quite funny. We were in the shop, obviously picking the instrument for my birthday, and I played Song 2 by Blur, and my parents were amazed that I could even play that.
Awesome.
That was the beginning for me. So yeah, it was from there just a bit of, I'd say a bit, but I got kind of obsessed with it. I used to have a computer game addiction, let's say, when I was younger, like most of us did. With the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo, and it kind of replaced a lot of that after I got the electric guitar. It was like, oh, I can turn this up and annoy my parents. This is perfect.
Great. Was there like a pivotal point where you kind of decided, okay, this is what I really want to do for a living? Like I really want to be a serious guitar player and just see where it takes me from there?
It was kind of almost immediately at that point. I guess I started getting lessons when I was 14 for about 1 or 2 years. There was a guy called Owen Vaughan Edwards. He has created some of the courses with Andy James. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Andy James, but I know that he created some of the courses with Andy James for his site. And he was my guitar tutor for the first couple of years, and he introduced me to players like John Petrucci, Yngwie Malmsteen, Van Halen. He introduced me to Dream Theater was the big one he introduced me to, and I kind of got a bit obsessed with that sort of direction of the guitar. And at that point, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I really enjoy this. And that was kind of the catalyst for it, because before I went to Owen, like I could play simple chords, a little bit of Nirvana, pretty standard things that you learn to begin with, Offspring, and then went down that route and finally found Meshuggah.
Wow.
It's funny because I remember before really getting into Meshuggah, I picked up an Ibanez brochure from where I bought my first proper guitar, what I consider the first, good level instrument. And it was the year that the Ibanez RG2027 X was out. No, the X.
Just the X? Oh, right, okay.
The one that was, it had a piezo pickup.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that the guitar on screen now?
No, that's the 8-string. You actually saw that post on my Facebook, I guess. That's actually, funnily enough, while we were scrambling to get stuff over, it actually fell on the floor.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I recently just bought that guitar back. So that is my Ibanez RG2228A, which is an 8-string with the fixed edge bridge with a set of DiMarzio deactivators in it. And I sold it back in 2015 to a friend of mine, and he recently let me buy it back so that I could basically, it's a bit of a nostalgia because it was the first instrument, first of 2 instruments I got under my first endorsement contract back in 2005. want to say it was 2012.
All right.
Through Headstock, who are the distributors of Ibanez in the UK, and a lovely man called Christopher Taylor. If you guys, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Chris. He obviously hasn't worked there for quite a few years now, but yeah, he was the one that gave me that endorsement, and it was lovely.
Cool.
But yeah, the magazine that I picked up was from a shop in the UK called Machine Head Music, based in Hitchin. The guitar player of a band called Biomechanical worked there, and I loved the band, and he actually sold me the guitar, which was a Yamaha. But at that time, I picked up the Ibanez brochure before I bought it because I was like, I really want the RG470. I really want the Ibanez RG470. I just couldn't afford it. And I was scrolling through this magazine, and I was, I saw the guys from Meshuggah, and it was like, I'll have a listen to that band, and listen to it, and I hated it. And then I also saw System of a Down in there on the first album, put that on, also didn't like it. And here we are now, System of a Down, absolutely love that band. Meshuggah, one of my favorite bands ever. I'm guessing that was probably the catalyst for it as well, to a degree, just seeing those artists within that brochure from Ibanez, which was 2001, I want to say, or 2002.
Okay.
Yeah, it would have been 2001 brochure, I think. I was 14, I think, when I bought that guitar, or 13. No, 14. It would have been the year after. So yeah, that was around that time. Yeah, and that was the beginning. An Ibanez brochure from Machine Head Music.
Awesome. And how was the transition? Like, when you said you started like playing very technical music, so when did you decide, okay, I need like the 7-string, or ultimately even I want to go with the 8-string guitar? Was that strictly because of Meshuggah, or was that a conscious decision from your side to kind of expand your tonal range even further?
So
downwards?
What happened was, obviously I was really into Dream Theater. So the reason for wanting to buy the 7-string originally was to learn A Change of Seasons, which that lovely 25-minute EP, which I still love that that EP. I think it's absolutely incredible. And I bought my first 7-string from a company called Music 123, I think it was called. They were based in the States, and this is like really early 2000s. And Ibanez had discontinued the Ibanez RG7620 and the Ibanez RG7420. So this Music 123 site were blowing the 7420 out for $290.
What?
How many did you buy?
That's important.
Only one. I mean, I was a kid. I was like 17 or 16 at the time. 17. Yeah. I would have been 17 at the time. And obviously it arrived, paid the import tax. I think I ended up paying maybe about £260. Because this was a steal. A couple of years after 9/11. So the dollar was worth about 49. So you would get 49 pence to a dollar. So it was roughly, 2. So yeah, it was dirt cheap, like absolutely dirt cheap. And I got this Magenta Crush Ibanez 7420, which was pink. It's not, it's pink. Yeah, I bought that guitar, and then I actually really hated it. And it wasn't the fact that it was the guitar. What it was, getting used to the 7th string, I just couldn't get used to it at all, because if you think about a normal guitar, it's an extra low string. So then the way that my brain just couldn't comprehend it. I was constantly playing wrong. Okay. So I had that guitar for less than 2 months and sold it for a profit, of course. And I still miss that guitar a lot, actually. I really do wish that I hadn't sold that guitar. God knows where it's gone. But yeah, so my first actual sort of experience with the 7-string was actually that I hated it. And it wasn't until 2 or 3 years after that I ended up buying a secondhand 7620 in order to actually play the lower tune stuff that we ended up doing with my old band Fell Silent, and eventually onto Monuments and what I do now. The A-string thing came about by accident, to be honest. Okay. I wrote some riffs where the low string was tuned lower, and then some of the riffs were in the normal tuning, so I actually needed the extra string in order to play the song. That was a schoolboy error. Yeah, that's how it started. Yeah, so basically that's why I got into the 8-string. Obviously, Meshuggah definitely played a part in that. The sound of Meshuggah is really, I guess it's so, well, at the time it was so unique. You know, it's a band hadn't really sounded like that at all. Yeah. And, you know, it sounds lovely. Yeah. Have you played around with 8-string much? Obviously, Dan, you definitely have. But Andy, have you played around with the really low tune stuff? I can imagine that you'd be into like the bass 6 and stuff like that.
I have a bass 6. I have 2 baritones. I don't have anything more than a 6-string, but I really want to try a 7-string. I accidentally played a 9-string once, and there might be a 9-string coming on the channel at some point in 2021. But 8 strings, like my brain, I can deal with that. 7 strings is weird because it's 7, because it's an odd number. But 8 strings makes sense to me because it's an even number, and I can count that. Like a 6-string, it's 6 strings. I know that. A 4-string on a bass, I know it. 7 strings, that freaks me out. But 8 strings, that makes sense.
That's really weird.
Yeah. It's extremely weird, and it makes no sense at all to anyone apart from my tiny little brain.
It's quite interesting. The odd numbers make sense. Yeah, but the 8, then you have a middle ground. Do you know what I mean? You know where the center is with 7. It makes sense a little bit more. I don't know. Both ways are wrong. Let's just say that.
Yeah, we're both wrong, but one of us is more wrong than the other.
Exactly. Let's be honest. When you get an 8-string, you don't play 7 of the strings anyway.
Right.
Yeah, you probably just do the chugga.
It like the weirdest thing with the 8 is the moment you start playing the low string, it sounds like the end of the world, basically. And then when you go to the next strings, it's like, this isn't as fun anymore. So that's kind of that's the issue that I have with the 8 is the tonality of the low string in comparison to everything else. It's infectious. So that's kind of why when I was saying that the 8-string was an accident, I tend to still write that way, where most of the stuff that I want to go on the 8-string, it'll be written on a 7, and then I'll transpose to the 8 if I think it could be slightly heavier or something, that one bit, and then it makes sense more to me. And that's actually how I began writing on a 7 as well. Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
That makes sense. When I play my baritone, I generally stay on that lowest string because it sounds just so full, so warming, so pleasing. And
it is.
Yeah, it's. I can lose hours just on that one string.
Get a Strymon delay pedal, a timeline, and turn it on with the low string. Maybe the big sky as well, and just let it ring out and play around with some controls. And yeah, you can get lost for a few years if you wanted to.
I see a weekly live stream coming up.
Andy plays with knobs.
Yeah. That might be a Patreon exclusive.
Sarang just found the right title, Chug Addiction. Addicted to the chug.
Oh, Chug Addiction is good. That's Chugadelish.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Chugadelic. Chug Addiction. Right. Can I have that, Sarang? Dibs, Sarang. I'm not joking. I need names. I love names. Yeah. I like having names for things that don't exist. Just having a good name, you know. Yeah. Now I've got both. Chug.
Now, going full circle after the Ibanez phase, you went with Manus.
I did, yes, and
you still are.
Still am now, yes, and I've been with Mayonnaise since 2014.
All right.
And yes, so from 2000 and I want to say it was 2012, Ibanez to 2014, and obviously the Miners guitars are absolutely epic, but one of the main reasons that I started shopping around is that you guys would not build me a 27-inch scale guitar. So I had a bunch of the old XLs. So obviously the new Ibanez XL, the 2027 XL that came out, is a reproduction of the 27.7 XL that I had, and I had two of them. And at the time of my endorsement, I couldn't technically use any of the sevens that were being offered by Ibanez. So I was using these guitars that were at the time over 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So from a perspective of being able to promote the brand with current guitars, it didn't really make any sense.
Yeah, I hear.
And it wasn't that I mean, that guitar was, if pretty much everyone knows me from that guitar, the blue 3 pickups, low pro edge Ibanez. And it was just a case of you only did the 26.5 inch scale at the time, and the 27 is the only thing that really works for me. But yeah, moving on to Mayones, like I met them at NAMM in 2014 through their distributor at the time. And there was a guy that worked for that distributor called Chris Johnson, who actually messaged me the other day. Actually, it's funny that we're talking about him. There's the DeVell Catsy 2.0. There we go. So yeah, my first endorsement was with Mayones was obviously just to play the instruments. So I was built a DeVell, which wasn't the Catsy model. And I played that on a few tours. And then maybe 7 months after we did those guitars, I had a message from the owner, David or Doward, however you want to pronounce it. I still don't fully know. I'm sorry. And he said, "Yeah, hey, should we do a signature model?" And I was like, "Yes," because I really want an ash-bodied DeVell. And at the time, they only did it with mahogany. So then we developed the DeVell Catsy 2.0 over the course of the next couple of months, which was released in 2000. And I want to say the first Catsy was released in 2016 at the NAMM show.
All right.
Which was the purple and the green, which you can see there, but they didn't have the matching headstocks. So that was the DeVell Catsy 1.0. 6-string, obviously 25.4 inch scale, 7-string 27-inch scale with bare knuckle pickups, a nail bomb, ceramic nail bomb in the bridge with a cold sweat in the neck. It's got the Shala Hannes bridge, rest in peace, as they just discontinued the 7 and 8-string versions of their bridges. If anyone at Shala is listening, please don't do that, and please start building them again, because it is, in my opinion, the best bridge ever made.
Fun fact, John, Schaller is around like 15 minutes from where I'm here.
Can you go up there and give whoever's responsible for that decision a slap?
I can give you an email address.
That would actually be great. If I'll buy the patent for the 7-string version so I can make it. So I've actually, in this drawdown here, I actually have a little stash of 7-string Shala Hannes bridges that I bought when they announced that they were discontinuing it, so that the next X amount of guitars that get built, I still have the possibility of actually having a guitar that with the bridge that I like on it.
What is it about that bridge that it does it for you? What's different?
So when I was playing the Ibanez's, the low pro edge bridge has a particular, lack of feel to it. You can't feel that it's there. It's if I was to use a tremolo bridge, which I used to block them off, but in terms of how it felt, it was wonderful. And the Shala Hannes has the same thing without the problem of it being floating. And I know that Ibanez addressed this with their fixed edge bridge, but the problem with the fixed edge was you still had to cut the ball ends off the strings, and it still felt like you had a Floyd Rose bridge without actually being able to move it. Which, when you restring this 8-string, it is, I'm not going to lie, a bit of a pain in the ass.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, it basically feels exactly like the low pro edge. You can't feel it with your hand. And that is the main thing that I love. It doesn't get in the way. There's no sharp bits. and it looks cool too. But then again, so does a low pro edge. A low pro edge also looks very cool, doesn't it?
Just looking at it now.
Actually, I was just checking on a couple of websites, and according to the Schaller website, it says the Hannes bridge is still available, or again available. That's interesting.
Interesting. So the 6-string they didn't discontinue. It was only the 7.
All right, only the 7. Okay.
Is it you, Browne, selling them out of your bottom drawer? Like you open a website, you've got a limited stock of 4,000.
Well, the funny thing is about the Schaller bridge is that the only thing that's different between the 7 and the 8 is the tailpiece.
All right. Okay.
And all the saddles attached by a screw. So all they've actually discontinued is a piece of metal this big.
Yeah.
Why?
Huh.
Why? Like, you've just made every 7 and 8 string player that loves that bridge very sad. I might be one of the only ones, but you still made me sad, Schaller. Thank you.
All right, we gotta sort it out after the live stream. Okay.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, of course. Sorry, I don't really do these bridges, but that looks fantastic. And I probably should bring that into the chat at some point. But yeah, if you're watching and you haven't looked at what that is, then you can just Google it. You're lazy to bring it in.
So there was a question about the actual neck feel. Like, what kind of shape did you go for when you designed your signature Katsi?
So
Katsi?
Katsi, that's it. Thank you for pronouncing it correctly. Some people pronounce it Quatsi, which might be right. I actually don't know how to pronounce it, but I say Katsi, so that's the right way to say it. So when we were doing the neck, obviously before that I was using the RG277 XL, which I was a big fan of, but I did find that it was slightly too thin for my tastes, in the fact that I kind of like, because I've got quite large hands, so I like a little bit more to the neck, and it's, thin necks are great for certain applications. I don't like a baseball bat. I like something that's comfortable in my hand. So this could go down a different route, couldn't it? But anyway, I just went for a comfortable C shape, basically.
All right. Okay.
Which wasn't too thin, somewhere comfortable in the middle. The 6-string neck on my signature is actually thinner than the 7-string neck.
Right.
Like a little bit. Like I have a 6-string over here that has, it feels like there's almost no neck on it. It's quite interesting. But the 7 just has a little bit more to it, just so it's more comfortable. Right. So halfway between an Ibanez and maybe a Schecter, somewhere in the middle between the two, because the Schecter's got a little bit of a fatter profile. The Ibanez is obviously a much thinner profile, especially if you go to those old early 90s universes. And it's somewhere in the middle between those two.
Right.
Yeah. And we made it out of Wenge as well, because it's got similar properties to maple, but it just looks cool, doesn't it? Like the dark wood of Wenge just looks cool and has a good amount of snap to it.
Mm-hmm. You also went for a kind of open pore-ish finish, like slightly satinized, but still you can feel like the grain and the pores.
Of course, yes. So I am totally against painted necks for the most part, especially when they're glossed. So the moment you go on stage and you start sweating, it's pretty disgusting. So I like the unfinished neck. Obviously, it gets shinier over time, but it never gets sticky. The gloss finish. So yeah, almost like the unfinished neck is kind of what I like, the satiny, open, porous kind of feel. It almost feels like the wood's oils are still pouring out when you're playing it, because it never gets sticky. Which I
couldn't agree more. I'm exactly the same.
It's weird because like the gloss neck goes one of two ways when you're on stage. One, your sweat makes your fingers stick, or it feels like you're on an ice rink and you never know which one you're going to get until the gig's happening. Does that make sense? It's quite
weird. Absolutely. Interesting. And funnily enough, you went with a green guitar as one of the color options.
Let's bring that back up. There it is.
Yes,
the Juice Burst.
This one is actually it's a in memory of a friend of mine.
All right. Okay.
Unfortunately passed away in 2015. He was actually an Ibanez endorsee as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the Juice Burst is basically Lacoste green in the middle. He used to wear Lacoste all the time, and he goes to fluorescent green to commemorate the guitars that he had. And he was Justin from After the Burial. He was a Ibanez artist for a very long time. So that one is dedicated to Justin. That just reminded me of him. I just wanted to do that. I spent a lot of time on tour with Justin between 2011 and 2014. Actually 100 solid days on tour, I believe that I counted. Which is probably more time than, you spend with some of your family members in that amount of time. Got to know him really well. He's a good friend. But Juice Burst, and his nickname was Juice, so that's why it was called Juice Burst.
All right.
That's my favorite of the three colors. Absolutely, it's beautiful.
It looks fantastic. I've got one hanging up. In fact, let me change my camera so you can see. There's one hanging up on the wall over here. Switch camera.
There you go.
Ah, there it is.
Over there.
Yeah.
There on the wall.
I was completely sold on the guitar when I saw like the finishing combination with the colored pickups, because it just adds that extra kind of
the zing
vibe to it. Yeah, completely. Yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah, I mean the green one, even for Catzy 1.0, had the multicolored bobbins of a dark green and a lime green kind of color. Obviously, this time with the new edition, there's also the purple bobbin with the gray bobbin for the Adina Burst, which is the purple one, and then we have the Ruby Burst, which has the red and the gray bobbins as well.
Speaking of pickups, Browne, we've got a question in the chat from Sarang. What kind of pickups do you like or prefer?
My favorite pickup ever currently, and has been for the best part of 10 years now, but I think it's actually longer than that. It's the bare knuckle ceramic nail bomb. It's so angry, but it's also really dry. Like you have to work to get it out of the pickup, which is what I like about it. So if I don't hit hard, it doesn't have the sounds that I'm looking for. So it's constantly keeping me on my toes at the same time. It's fantastic.
So you like a bit of fight with your instruments. That's exactly what I love, when you have to really work with it rather than control it.
I definitely prefer that as well. And that's actually kind of how I set up amp sounds as well, where the gain is just at the point where if you hit hard enough, you get the saturation you're looking for. But if you don't hit that hard, then it's a little bit drier. And that's kind of where I like my gain to be. And I think that also just that pickup just adds to that. Like for example, if I play a bare knuckle War Pig, it's almost too much. If I play the bare knuckle Aftermaths, it's too much for me as well. And same with active pickups for the most part. I mean, there's a couple of the EMGs that I really liked, like the 60, the 60, which one was it again? The 57 and the 66. They were really sweet. I really liked those pickups. But yeah, the nail bomb is the one.
Are you much of a modder? Are you like you're naming all these pickup names, all these different parts of guitars? Are you the kind of guy that takes guitars apart and mods them, or how do how did you have these experiences with different parts?
I used to do that a lot. So when I first started playing, I in fact the second guitar I ever got was a Squire Stratocaster in white. And I used to just take that thing apart and try different pickups in it, try rewiring it. And, I think that we all kind of did that to a degree.
Yeah.
Like, especially in a Strat, the jack would always have one cable that came out of it and it would buzz everywhere. And then while you were fixing it, you were like, oh, all right, there's more cables in here that I can round with. I can't remember. I mean, even with the Yamaha guitar I bought, I remember swapping out the stock pickups for like a Seymour Duncan JB pickup, which I know that's one of those pickups that some people love, some people hate. But I really liked the JB. You like the JB?
Oh man, it's one of my favorites. In a certain guitar, that's my pickup of choice.
It's a really good pickup. Yeah, but I think it totally depends on what you put it in. Like any pickup, really, isn't it?
I played it in a Strat in the Ed O'Brien, the Radiohead guitar player's signature.
Oh yeah,
And
okay.
that is a great guitar. It's got a sustainer in the neck, but that pickup just like, okay, now I know exactly what pickup I want in every Strat, and yeah.
That's privilege. A Strat needs single coils.
Yes, I have a Strat that is a full Strat, as in, basic 50s spec custom shop Fender, but it's not the most versatile of instruments, and it's not, I like that little bit of extra poke, and that JB does it for me. And yeah, I don't have that Ed O'Brien anymore. I got rid of it stupidly because I thought I had too many Strats, which I do. Oh, my chair just decided to go down. But yeah, I miss that guitar.
There's no such thing as too many Strats.
Yeah, probably right. Too few guitar stands, maybe.
Yeah. So, Browne, is there any guitar that you still miss that you sold because you just recently bought back the RG, the 8-string? Is there like any guitar you still have on your bucket list that you want to get back that you sold in a desperate move to get cash for another new guitar, but now you miss it?
Actually, every single time I've sold a guitar, it's because I've been too poor. And I'm sure as musicians, we can all relate to that. Sometimes you just have to sell something. So there's actually there's 3 guitars that I really miss that I've been looking to get back. And I don't want just replicas of what they were. I want those specific ones that I had. So one was an RG2127X, which was what we were talking about earlier from the catalog, but this was made for the Japanese only market. It had the bridge, double-edged bridge in it with a pair of pickups, and I sold it to James McIlroy from Cradle of Filth in 2008. And he actually offered it to me 3 years ago or 4 years ago now when he was selling it. And I just didn't have the money to buy it back. And I think it's in Canada now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But getting that guitar back, 7-string, it was only 25.5-inch scale, but there was something cool about that guitar that I just miss. And I think it was just the cool piezo sound from it.
Was that the one in vintage violin?
Yes. It looks like the Meshuggah guitar. No, not vintage violin. It was called something else, but it was a mahogany body, and it looks like the Meshuggah finish. So it had it was like a distressed black.
All right. Okay.
I'll try and find a picture of you after so you can see which one. But the vintage violin was the 2027X.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And then the 2127X was a Japanese only market version of it, which is darker. We like darker guitars. The other guitars, well, 2 guitars, they're kind of related because they were technically the same guitar. So one was a 2077 XL Ibanez, which I bought for pennies in Italy in 2007. And I got it. So basically, the bridge, it has the block at the back on the Pro Edge. All of the screw holes had ripped, so it needed to be retampered with the block. So the guy sold it to me for €300.
That's quite a good price.
Yep, a really good price. I bought this Ibanez 27XL, which didn't have a single dent in it.
Wow.
It's in the case for €300.
That's a steal.
Yeah.
That's a steal.
And so I picked that up, and obviously I sold that on about 2015 as well. So it was 8 years later. And that guitar I recorded both the first 2 Monuments albums. It's on part of the Fell Silent album. All the live shows between 2007 to 2014.
Wow. That's quite some time. Yeah.
Went everywhere with me. And I sold that to a friend who recently just sold it on, but he said he's got the contact and he'll find it for me to see if he'll let me buy it back. And then the final guitar was the pre-production of the 1077, which was called an Ibanez RG7680 Limited 1, which was basically a 1077 XL in a really strange two-tone finish with glow-in-the-dark binding and fret markers. And they only made 24 of them. And I had one. And I sold it because I'm an idiot. Again, money. So you should check this guitar out, actually. So they did it in two different colors, Andy. They did one that was like this two-tone blue.
Give me the numbers again, Browne, because you must have seen my glazed over eyes when you mentioned those numbers. Ibanez.
RG 7680. Limited.
RG 7680 limited LTD 1 I've got.
That's the one. Yeah. So they did, I had the purple finish one, which...
Ultra rare.
Yes.
It's on 7string.org.
That might even be the original post I did to sell mine.
Should.
What's your username on 7string?
John Streichnein.
No, there's some guy called Midian.
I actually think that might have been the one I bought.
Old red.
Yeah.
Funny.
But that guitar was a 27-inch scale, and it was the introductory model for the 1077. And I guess the pre-production was to introduce it to the market to see if any interest was in the guitar. But yeah, there's only 24 in each color. And I had one, and I sold it, and I'm very sad. And I got it signed by both guitar players from Meshuggah.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, I sold it. Yeah. It's always like, yeah, like I tend to try and not sell guitars. Obviously, I get to a point when I think I have too many and something has to give.
Yeah.
But yeah, those three, I definitely 100% regret selling those three.
I think most of us can relate.
I think, and also I think that sometimes you get a bit of tunnel vision, thinking, "Oh, I need something new." But imagine if Peter Green thought that he needed a new guitar with his Gibson and got rid of it in like the '60s. The one that Kirk Hammett owns now. I think it went from Peter Green to Gary Moore, and then from Gary Moore to Kirk Hammett, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he held onto that guitar for years. Can you imagine owning a guitar for 30 years before you sell it?
That's insane.
Definitely not.
It becomes part of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, and Peter Green thought that was the best sounding guitar ever made, didn't he? So yeah. Yeah, one day I'll find those guitars again, because
But I just want to be sure you want to find those exact guitars, not ones like in the same range and same year, but those exact guitars that you sold.
The exact ones, yeah. So like the obviously the 8-string, the one here, is the exact one, and it's still on the case. Still has the last flight tag that I took. So the last flight I took with that case, that is still on the case.
Awesome.
Oh wow.
The same strap was on the guitar is still on the guitar, and all the writing that I did on the case for saying that it was my second guitar and not to forget it is still written on the case as well. Yeah, so yeah, and the case is just over there. I could go and get it, but I won't.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's definitely the one.
That's amazing.
So would you recognize your guitars? Like if you've been offered one of the limiteds, for instance?
Yeah,
would you be able to tell? Yeah.
It's signed by Meshuggah on the back of the headstock.
Oh yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
I
unless
also
someone
put a chip in it in a very specific spot, and it made me very upset. I fell up the stairs, and I put a massive chip in the front of it.
Shit. Oh boy. I hope nobody wiped the Meshuggah signatures off.
They might have done, but I'll recognize that chip immediately.
All right. Yeah.
When you do the first chip on a guitar, you kind of recognize it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first cut is
Burn.
definitely the deepest.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you like to keep your guitars like pristine or as close to case condition as possible, or do you view them as tools?
Tools, definitely. Yeah, like the only time when I get angry about it having a new dent is when it's done by the TSA.
Yeah.
So when we go on tour, I have one of those 3-way Scott Dixon cases where you put 3 guitars into one case and it weighs less than 23 kilos. And that basically means to a airport luggage handler, destroy me. So what happens is especially when you go to the States, they'll open the case and then they'll take the guitars out of these slots and then they don't push them into the slots properly. So what you have is a massive shaker filled with guitars. And every single time you open it up after a flight, you're like, I don't recognize that dent. Like there's actually one guitar here. I'll grab it actually so you guys can see. And you can see where the strap button has hit the front of the guitar numerous times. So let me just show you that.
I'm excited.
Oh, that's that's a traveling musician's pain.
So I'm going to change camera angle so you guys can see this a little bit better. And you should be able to see on the front here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nuts. There you go.
Oh. Oh yeah, that was it
Hey,
when it turned around. Man, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a bunch in the back, but it's a lot harder to see because of the ash. There's even imprints of where the strings from the guitar behind it. You can literally see the string imprint. It's amazing.
Oh boy.
So yeah, guitars are tools until someone else does it and you don't.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one day you'll have kids, or I don't know if you have kids, but then it becomes interesting. Because
Yes. When they pull a string and it falls off the stand.
yeah, my kids are actually really, really good, and they have guitars of their own, which they take care of, and they're almost ruined, but they still function and they play really well. But they really appreciate them. But just sometimes I can see it in their eyes. They know it's wrong, but they're like, I must do it. Bink.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have kids, but I have a nephew. And when he was 2 to 3 years old, I spent quite a bit of time at my sister's house. And whenever I would pick up my guitar, he would come running over and he would go on all the strings. So yeah, I always had to put it in the case.
Oh, that
That's
sucks.
what cases are for, right? TSA, airport staff, and babies.
Babies and children.
Lovely.
I must say, it's really nice to hang out with you again, Browne, because we met briefly at 42 Gear Street at Hennig's place last year. That's weird saying last year.
Isn't it?
That was an intense couple of days, because I feel like I know you better than I do, but we all got in quite, with masks, of course, and with social distancing, quite tight. And you started me on a journey that I am nowhere near qualified to even begin on playing metal and going into that genre. But one of my New Year's resolutions is to try and get out of my comfort zone as a guitar player, because I generally hang around the pentatonic scale, fuzz pedals, blues rock, sort of that kind of area, your standard players area. But in my love of fuzz, there's a gateway to distortion and these low strings, as we were talking about. And I posted something on Instagram earlier with this week with the new Ibanez Geo. Dan, tell me what it is.
You mean the GRG 221?
That's the one. The
PB?
the grr.
Yep.
And I had a lot of fun playing the riff, but And the tone in the room sounded quite nice, but when I heard it back on the phone, I'm like, oh my goodness, that is horrible. And people were actually quite polite, but it was like...
I actually thought it sounded great. I actually listened to this.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I actually saw this because I think I got tagged in it. And it's like, Andy's trying to downpick like you, man.
I did that, yeah.
Oh, that was you, yeah, of course. Yes, of course it was.
So... it was Rain in Blood by Slayer, and
Yep.
I mean, what a way to go for a first attempt. But it was totally brand new for me. The aggression was still there because I grew up with grunge music, and Nirvana were my inspiration for guitar. So that I'm more about expression than I am technique, and I love the fact, like, I know that I have holes in my guitar playing, big ones, and I love that metal is. Generally speaking, I like how mathematical it is, how you have these different subdivisions of the beat. And with Rain in Blood, I was like, I could not let ba-da-da on that first beat is harder than the rest. That is not something I'm used to playing, and it confused my brain so bad.
I've got the perfect thing to confuse you further, mate, if you want it.
I want it.
I'm going to give you a login for my guitar tuition site, which is predominantly focused on intensively increasing your rhythm chops.
Nice.
So I'm going to give you a little sample of Riff Hard so that you can test it, and I'll also send it to you as well, Dan, so you can check it out.
Awesome, thanks a lot.
You were a massive Metallica fanboy, so I'm pretty sure that you are a connoisseur of the downpicking variety.
Definitely.
My dad. Thank you very much. It's a very kind offer, and I hate you a little bit. So, thanks.
Honestly, like if you come along, I promise that if you do some of the exercises for a little bit every single day, you will see massive improvements really quickly. I mean, did you try the exercise that I showed you from Gear Street?
Yes, and without that, I wouldn't be able to be at the small stage that I'm at right now. My down picking comes from Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day and the basket case sort of era.
Dude, that guy is phenomenal. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. And it's funny, I was reading a Steve Vai interview not too long ago, and he actually praises Billy Joel Armstrong in it. And the reason why is that you can instantly tell when it's him.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
He just has this, when he plays chords, it just sounds like the end of the world. I mean, for me, the ending of Boulevard of Broken Dreams is awesome. It sounds, the guitar tone is so good. The guy knows what he's doing. He's fantastic.
Yeah, and he stays in that sort of area. And as you said, you always know when it's him playing, and you even know when it's someone who's trying to play like him and it isn't him.
Yeah,
because it's really close, but it's like this pop punk, power punk sort of movement that was happening. There's elements of his style in there, but it's not him, and it's not the guitar, it's not the pedals, it's not the amps, it's him plus all that stuff.
I'm pretty sure he's downpicking Basket Case.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could play it years ago when I was a lot younger. But this is back when I learned it from the video. When they're in this hospital, the mental hospital. So
that's the video I was telling you about that I watched when I was a kid when I was 7.
Yeah, it
was exactly
orange jumpsuit, isn't it? That's burned into my mind so deeply.
Drummer being wheeled in a wheelchair, But like that came out Dookie was 93, wasn't it? Or was it 94?
It was. I can't tell you when. It was not 95. Oh, I hate saying that. I hate saying absolutes. It was not 95. It's 95. But I'm so glad that you said Dookie.
Yeah.
Because that's what I say. And people, when I made the video for the Dookie pedal, 1994, February the 1st, when I made the video for the pedal, all I've got is Americans on there saying, "Oh, Dookie, what's Dookie?" And it's Dookie or I don't know. It means poo, doesn't it?
It probably is technically Dookie, but I mean, I don't know why. I always said ducky.
Yeah, me
I don't
too.
know why.
I've actually never met someone else that has said that. So thank you.
It's all right. Maybe it's an English thing.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have those things back then. So I read a word and it sounds like Wookiee, right? Like Chewbacca.
Exactly.
Spell it
Yeah,
the same.
exactly.
Wookiee Dookie.
Yeah. And also, Americans speak English. Huh?
John, it's an international show, John.
I know, I'm only messing. It's all good.
So talking about the picking hand, like I've got one specific question because a lot of times people say you gotta like train your hand, but you also like keep it trained. How do you maintain your picking speed? For instance, when you take a break from playing, when you go on vacation, do you see some kind of like movements and your capability of how fast you can pick and how consistent you can pick?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like the hand is just like any other muscle in the body, and you know, if you don't go swimming, cycling, running, or whatever, if playing football or something like that, if you don't do it for a couple of weeks, you have to retrain to get back up to the standard that you were at, and it's no different than with the picking or the fretting hand with a guitar. And if I don't play guitar, if I don't play a Monument song for months, and I'm not going to lie, I've not played a Monument song in quite some time. I know that when I have to go and do it, it's going to probably take a couple of hours minimum to get it back to what it was. And as far as exercises go, I mean, I hate to keep plugging Riff Hard.
Plug away, plug away.
But a lot of the exercises on Riff Hard I find are really, really, really good for just building up strength again. And there's one in particular on the site that I do consistently go back to just because it's fun to play. And I know that if I do it for X amount of time a day over the course of a week, that I'm going to be able to get back to what I was if I haven't been playing that much. Obviously, when we're on tour, it's not so much of a problem because we're playing, 60 to 90 minutes a night. And that's enough to at least maintain what my job is on that particular, for that particular month or however long we're away for. But, just doing a couple of exercises from the Riff Hard site is generally enough to keep and maintain what is there for what I need to do. I mean, the song Docs is a completely different kettle of fish, though. I mean, that one definitely requires some going back over for it. But if you listen to, Master of Puppets, like it's playing that from start to finish, all downpicked, is insanely difficult. And like, obviously there's a video of me doing it, and I'd have to train back for that to do that again, for sure. It's 8 minutes of complete. It's an endurance race. That song. Any Metallica song is. I mean, James Hetfield doesn't get the love he deserves, in my opinion, at all. They might be the biggest band in the world, but as a guitar player, people should be their jaw should be on the floor, especially if you watch Live in Seattle from 1989. It's just absolutely unreal. Yeah.
Fully agreed.
Yeah.
Super cool.
I have a question from the chat. I thought Dan was going to go for it. Then we have some dead air. Guillaume is asking if your palm rests when you're chugging, or if your muting is from the left hand mostly, because it sounds like left hand release more than palm muting.
It's both. So, I can show it as an example here, actually, with this. Oh, in fact, I've got my 6-string over here, which is even better. Hey, do you like my pick container?
Wow. Mind blown.
And I'm going to get a 6-string and then change camera angle to sort of. Oh, I've got so many guitars around my chair.
Could that end you buried in guitars by the end of the show?
Yeah, probably. So, like, just as an example, I'm changing camera angle here so you can see a little bit better. Yes, perfect. So, say I pick closer to the bridge here. My palm mutes are going to be fatter. They're going to be more open. But the moment I start moving my right hand forward to the middle of the pickup, you start getting more of that. It's more metallic, for lack of a better word. So then combine that with, I'm just changing camera angle one more time. You can combine that with a left-hand slap, for example. Then you start getting the, I know that's probably difficult to hear through the mic, but you start getting the consistency between both the left hand and the right hand, and it actually sounds like it's one and in the same. And that's probably like what this guy's hearing. So like some of it is left hand slap, but imagine what I'm trying to do with the left hand slap is something like a ghost note from a snare drum. You know, say you've got a drum beat and you take all the ghost notes away, the drum beat doesn't groove quite as much. The ghost notes kind of help with the pulse, and that's kind of what I do with the left hand slap. I'm trying to keep the pulse of the riffs, so it's kind of a mixture of both depending on what the part is. Plus it feels cool to do the left hand slap.
Can you show us one more time, because I was really soaking all that in. I just want to hear it again if we may.
Yeah, sure, no problem. You guys can hear it on the on the camera.
You hear a difference, yeah.
Okay, cool. So let me. And then obviously with its distortion as well, it's kind of a bass technique, isn't it? More than anything.
I have no idea. It just sounds cool.
Yeah, bass technique. Like think about pop and slap technique.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Where you're slamming down the left hand and it gives you that muted kind of bass note thing. And if you think about it, like if you're playing with a wall of distortion on it on your guitar, just using your right hand to mute notes, it doesn't really mute the note. You kind of need to mute from both in order to get tight. So that's kind of what that's doing. It's choking the note and adding a slight different percussive sound to the riff. Even though with a wall distortion, it kind of has the same sound, but if you try playing it with your right hand, it doesn't sound right as well. So that's kind of why mixing both up it just keeps it tight and still sounds cool to me anyway. But
do you happen to have like issues with synchronization of both hands when you haven't played for a long time? Or is it more like that kind of endurance and strength to get that back on level, kind of retrain yourself? I
think to a degree, yes. The coordination on the more complex parts definitely takes a little bit of work.
Okay.
It's like anything, you know, everyone has good days and bad days, and you know, sometimes people don't think about that, you know, like I'm sure you've seen a band for like, say you take a band and you've seen them 5 times at the same venue, guaranteed there'll be one time that you thought was better than the other 4. And we're just human, you know, it happens. Like some days won't be able to play something and you go back to it the next day and you breeze through it. So as far as the synchronization goes, yeah, sometimes it's shot. You know, sometimes it just isn't working. I mean, try and get me to play guitar and write something after 8 p.m. at night. My brain doesn't work properly. It doesn't work the same. And if you want to see that, just come and watch a Riff Hard live stream. It's quite funny. The moment it hits 8-9 o'clock, for some reason I can't play the same. I think it's probably like a combination of being maybe slightly hungry and my brain starting to think, all right, it's time to watch some TV and go to bed. But yeah, as far as the training goes, yeah, I mean, obviously a little bit of synchronization depending on what it is. If I haven't played a song in ages, then maybe it takes a little bit of time to remember how it grooves.
Right.
Yeah.
But generally, like the mechanics always kind of stay there. It's more the endurance and the stamina that needs to be rebuilt back up. Playing for long periods of time, like Master of Puppets is a perfect example of that. Like I would not be able to play all 8 minutes of that right now. Yeah, so that's something that would probably take me about a week to get back into. Yeah.
All right. Others, it takes them a lifetime. So lucky you.
Well, I've just
Do you
started.
practice? Yeah, John, do you practice with amps or also unplugged? Because I've noticed that especially with those kind of techniques where you got to do a lot of muting and kind of synchronization of both hands, it kind of can be detrimental when you only try to rehearse that unplugged. But as soon as you plug in the amp, it's a totally different animal because you've got so many different noises going on.
It's also dependent on the amp as well, I found.
Yeah.
So, for example, like you see this wooden block amp that's just behind me here. This was brought in by my friend Dave today. Can't even remember who makes it. It was just like a home built. It's a Healy Sapphire. I'm pretty sure you've probably never heard of that company.
No.
It's a 1 watt amplifier with an EL84 Class A with 2 tubes in it, 2 preamp tubes. And so say I'm playing through something like that where when you start turning up, you start getting power amp distortion. It's a completely different feeling than, say, something like a Hughes and Kettner or a Synergy or Driftwood or a Rev or something like that. And each of them kind of feel a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to this percussive stuff, you'll start finding that you play it slightly differently depending on what amp or what sound you're playing through as well. I'm pretty sure that you've probably noticed this, Dan, when you're like going between guitars as well. You'll find that the pinch harmonic spot is slightly different, stuff like that. So it's exactly the same thing when I play through my pod by Line 6 or my Helix or the Axe effects here. It's again ever so slightly different. Like it'll either be maybe my hand needs to move closer to the bridge or slightly further forward. I actually believe that you play to the amp, and I've noticed that a lot when I'm playing different amps, that something will change ever so slightly, even if I don't necessarily notice it in the moment. When, like, say I see a video playing back and it's like, oh, my hand's quite far back for that bit, trying to get the same level of like a more metallic palm mute or something like that. Like for a dual rectifier, for example, like the bottom end is quite big, and to get that metallic palm mute, I'll probably be moving my hand slightly further forward, even with a boost pedal in front. Stuff like that. It's kind of difficult to explain actually, but yeah, it like playing acoustically like this, I tend to only do when I'm writing music, and then everything else I'll usually play through either a clean patch or a heavily distorted patch. Clean patch sometimes, so then you can work out the notes easier, if you know what I mean. If you have the idea, you can hear the notes a lot easier, and you can start like actually piecing it together a little bit easier, because it's easier just to hear the notes. But then obviously something that works in clean generally will work in distortion for the most part, but not vice versa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of, I kind of practice all three ways. Like, for example, we have a song called Quasimodo, and I wrote the main 2 riffs from that song on an acoustic guitar, and then had to work out those little mechanics bits, like the palm mutes and stuff like that afterwards. So, but yeah, totally depends on what I'm playing through. But yeah, it changes ever so slightly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great. I mean this in the most positive way possible. You are such a nerd. I love it. I'm forgetting that I'm on camera. I'm enjoying listening to you talk about this stuff with such passion so much that I saw myself on screen like going, because I'm in the zone of enjoying someone talking about guitars and actually knowing what they're talking about, and using the guitar and the amp together as one instrument, and the player, the amp, and the guitar and everything that goes in between is one unit, and that's how you come across to me as a player.
It's quite funny, like we're always talking about like different pickups to use, and maybe we use this different pedal or something like that. But generally, that stuff, even though yes, you'll enjoy how it feels and maybe how it sounds when you're playing it, ultimately, the sound of how something sounds is most certainly in the way that someone plays. And I know that this is an ongoing argument since the early days of forums, where people were like, tone is not in the fingers. And it's like, the easy way to know that is there's a really simple way to test this out. And you go to your mate's house, you record him playing through his rig or her, and then you play on the rig, and you will sound completely different than that person on the same equipment. Like, I mean, it'll be completely different. And that goes to show that regardless of what equipment you're using, it's going to sound different. Like, the tone is in the fingers, it's how you play. So a good example of that, say I pick my string lighter than someone else, that means there's going to be less distortion on their sound versus the person that hits harder, because that's how physics works. You know, I hit the string harder, the pickup's going to pick up more of the string rattle, and then that's going to create more gain through my distorted channel of my amp. How was people not work that out? Literally just go to your mate's house, play through their rig, keep the settings exactly the same, record both of you, and it will have differences, pretty big ones that you will be like, huh, all right, cool. I mean, I did a creative live with Al Levy, Monuments did, and me and Ollie recorded a riff through the same amp, and it just sounded totally different.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, you know, you could say it's pick, you could say it's something else, but generally it's, if you pick harder, there's going to be more gain, and just the way you play. Tone isn't the way you play. Yeah. Everyone's going to hate me now, aren't they?
No. You just outgeeked us. You outgeeked the Evanescence Geek. You outgeeked the Guitar Geek. It's just, it's insane. It's insane.
Well, I absolutely agree with you, John. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of continue on your journey of developing like downpicking skills. So, John, when you kind of developed your own technique, how did you do that? Did you, especially your pretty unique technique and your tone, did you kind of do exercises and then also record yourself and check that back and forth, or what was kind of that kind of practice routine that you would go for?
It wasn't recording myself. Well, sorry, it was recording myself, but not exercises. So okay. I would tend to write music, and it would be all down picking because, you know, Hetfield is life. You know, just to talk about down picking a little bit, the main reason for it, I mean, the best way to explain it is imagine a drummer, and he's got 2 feet, and when he's playing a kick drum or she's playing a kick drum, you'll notice that the leading foot, if they're right-handed, obviously their right foot, will be much stronger than the left foot in the way that it. And if you record a drummer, you'll see it. You'll see it on the waveform. You'll see that the right kick or the leading foot kick there's way more of a transy on it. It's louder, and I kind of feel the same way about the pick when you're doing down versus down and up together. There's a certain point where it's not going to be exactly the same. The muscles in the hand need to be different from going down to up. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I've just found that, you know, if a drummer can play a particular kick pattern with 1 foot versus 2 feet, it's going to sound better just because it's focused on 1 limb rather than 2. I mean, come on, you guys have played with loads of drummers. You know, when they're doing that double kick and it sounds like a horse jogging along, rather than being, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. and the left one isn't as strong as the right one, or the leading one is stronger than the non-leading one. And I've always found that's the same thing for guitar. Look at your DI tracks when you're playing is a good example of seeing the difference between down picking a riff and alternate picking a riff. Yeah. See the consistency is much better when you down pick it all. Pretty much any engineer of metal on the planet will tell you the same thing as well. If you can down pick a riff, just do it. It's going to sound better. Yeah. So as far as like what I did, I started obviously recording myself back in 2001, but I started using Cubase in about 2003, 2004 sort of time. In between the years of 2006 and 2009, I think is where the biggest sort of jump happened, was just really focusing on what I was doing wrong based on the information I was hearing when listening back to my playing. And that could have been, you know, from changing how much gain I was using, but also just trying to play in what I consider to be the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you've recorded a good take, it feels good. Do you know what I mean? Against the drums, and that's what music is. It's about picking the perfect take, and it's about finding it as well. And just listening back to those DI tracks and hearing, like, I could have hit that note better. It could have been more consistent with everything else that's going on around it. And that was what I did. I wrote my own songs, and basically really focused on making sure I was in the pocket and making sure that it was consistent. I wanted to see that it was consistent.
Right.
I wanted, like, when you've got a good drummer and you see the audio waveforms and the snare, when it's meant to be hit hard, it's always at the same level. And when it's like a roll, you can see that it's going up in a lovely sweeping curve. When the hit's meant to be soft versus like full on, you can tell that it was meant to be that way and not that they hit that drum like shit. That's kind of it. Yeah. So consistency. I think that was like the one thing that I was really striving to do when I was recording myself. And not with exercises, just as I said, the songs that I wrote, that's, it keeps it fun as well. I mean, it's you've got an end goal. You want this riff to sound the best it can be. Yep. So at that point, it's like, it's not really a challenge anymore. It's more like, it's like playing a game, isn't it?
Next level.
Yeah, exactly. I want to 100% this game. That's what it is, isn't it? And the Jason Richardson is really good at that. Guitar player, he is phenomenal, and I think that's probably how he thought with what he was playing as well, because he's not human. He's phenomenal. Yeah.
All right, Andy.
Dan. I guess
the whole way is right in front of you.
Yeah, it's open. It's there. I mean, it makes sense. It's like if you sit around, eat crisps and chocolates, and don't go to the gym, or you do on the other side, your body starts to change. And if you don't practice guitar properly, your guitar playing starts to change. And yeah, not always for the better. And I found, like, just through doing the YouTube channel, and I spend too much time editing video and not enough time playing guitar, which I'm trying to change. But recently in 2021, very recently, I'm playing more guitar as a percentage of my day. And that's, again, one of those resolutions. Like, it's not just a resolution as I must do this, it's what I want to do, Yeah. And it's just
Did you find, though, that you got really good at video editing?
Yeah, I certainly got better. I certainly know my keystrokes and all those things, like bang, bang, bang. But then I'd come to that's the problem. I'd come to my guitar playing, and it would take me longer to edit because I'd played worse. So there's this must be this golden ratio of time spent where I've rehearsed enough but not forgotten how to edit video, and remembered how to edit video and not forgotten how to play guitar, because both makes it quicker. It's a very unique position to be in, but
have you thought about it like this when you're trying to learn guitar, is maybe focusing on one tiny little aspect that you want to improve that day, rather than seeing as a whole? Because if you look at the guitar as a whole, or just I think the best way to explain it is when you're trying to write music, and it's like the possibilities kind of endless.
Yes.
And it kind of feels that way when you're trying to learn sometimes, is that maybe you should focus on one specific micro technique, like a pull off. Like, you want a pull off to sound a certain way, maybe focus on that. Or say you want to do something with a tap in, then try and do something based around what it is you're actually trying to achieve. And then the whole process of actually trying to get better at the guitar seems all of a sudden a lot less daunting than maybe it could be. And then a week later, you've created like a little exercise for yourself based around these techniques, and all of a sudden a week later you have filmed yourself, and it's like, I can play that part a lot better now.
No, I totally sucked myself out about halfway through last year, like seeing the guitar and the guitar world as what it is, this huge behemoth of possibility. And the only way to do anything is to break it down into bite-sized little chunks. And as you've said, attack them independently and really compartmentalize those different pieces. And I see it like I see it like a game, a computer game where you get so many points at the beginning to spend on your character, and you can spend some on speed and some on strength and stamina and maybe magical abilities, and then they grow, and they go up. But if you don't use magic for a while, your magic abilities disappear, whatever. That's how my brain figures it out, Life's a game. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, that's actually the perfect way. It's like, you don't want to... It's like having the overall vision of what you want to achieve, but knowing how to get there through strategic small steps. Yeah, for sure.
That's why I've gone on this metal journey, because it's so new. It's very clear to me what I can't do, and therefore what I need to work on. So then I can then apply that to my other styles that I enjoy playing, and break out of the old little ruts that I was in, because I've built something through playing a different style. And yeah, it's opening doors and really changing my enjoyment level, because that's why I play guitar. I don't play it to play a certain speed or a certain many notes per minute or whatever like that. I play it because I want to enjoy those little moments when you might hit one note and you think, oh, that was cool.
Those are the moments, aren't they?
Yes.
They're that, like, that's the moments that I enjoy as well. Like when you accidentally play a sequence of 3 notes that sends you onto a journey of writing a song. That's it. Yeah. And having if you think about it, like when you're learning all these new techniques, all you're really doing is facilitating your ability to express yourself.
Yes.
Sure thing. Yeah.
Like, so learning metal, even if it's not your favorite genre in the world, learning an aspect of every genre just adds to your vocabulary that you're able to achieve when you have that idea, thinking, I want that one riff, or I want to do a funk bit. Then it's there. You don't have to lose the idea because you don't have the ability to do it. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Guitar's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? It's definitely the coolest. Actually, bass is pretty up there too.
Yeah, if we're honest, bass is much cooler.
It is like bass. It's the way that you can express on it.
Yeah.
It's so cool, isn't it? It's kind of it's what I kind of wish I was.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure. Do you know, the funny thing is that I started learning bass before guitar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then my bass teacher looked very upset when I walked into school with my new electric guitar.
Oh, you defected.
I did.
He must... Another one! No!
Yeah.
Be satisfied with the back of the stage. But yeah,
guitar's cool. I love playing it.
I quite like drums as well. I did bass, and I was in a band before I could play an instrument. That's where I come from. My true passion is just saying, yeah, I can do that, and then realizing you can't. And then
you joined a band before you could play an instrument.
I formed a band before I could play an instrument.
That's amazing.
I did a gig before I could play an instrument. I was on the drums, like thinking, yeah, I can handle this. I'll just sit at the back. Yeah, really did. Really, we played a gig, and I don't remember how well it went, but I enjoyed it.
Did you block it out from your memory?
No, I can still remember being there on the school stage and people shouting rude words at me from the back of the hall. I don't think it was that good to listen to, but I certainly, I got the bug from that moment, and then realized that I should probably put some work in,
So what, did you think that you were just going to get on stage then you could magically play the drum?
No, that would be ridiculous. What I thought was My grandfather is a drummer. And I used to spend almost every Saturday night sat behind him when he would play at the British Legion, playing maracas, watching him play and sing at the same time. And that's how, I got this bug for music. And I thought, via osmosis and genetics and DNA, which I didn't understand back then, my grandfather's a drummer, therefore it's in my blood, therefore I am a drummer if I just try it.
Fair enough.
I'd say that's fair
I mean, I
enough.
kind of studied it, sitting behind him, drinking lemonade and smashing maracas together, which was the wrong way to play maracas, I learned. But, yeah.
To be fair, most of the learning is done through listening and observation. So you weren't wrong. But then you need the skill set to do the mechanics.
Yeah, I just didn't have the chops.
Exactly
I blame the bassist for not locking in with me, at that particular gig. He was not practiced enough. But we did all wear matching trousers, so, we nailed it, really, if you ask me.
Only trousers.
No, but we wore t-shirts as well, but only the trousers were matching. We weren't half naked. Not in that band. That was a different band. Yeah, but
Amazing.
I really enjoy guitar and music, and finally I'm about to hit 40 this year, and I thought it was about time that I could actually be happy with my playing. So this year is the year that I really knuckle down and get more enjoyment by working harder.
I think it's just about working smarter, actually.
Yeah.
And harder. Because obviously you're a hard-working fella. We see it all the time with all your videos and stuff like that. I think it's just a case of maybe working smarter and just knowing what it is you wanted to achieve from the guitar, which by the sounds of it, you do.
So, yeah, it's about efficiency for me, because as a father and a guy that works at home, I don't have that much spare time. So it's, as I'm sure for the rest of us, I'm certainly not unique in that sense. Even though my job is guitars, you want your own personal guitar time,
Exactly, yeah. And it's quite funny, actually, because, when we're kids and we're starting to learn this instrument, you don't really realize that after the age of about 20, you're not able to play the instrument for 4 to 10 hours a day anymore, because you have this thing called bills. Yeah. So like I really do wish that I picked up the electric guitar earlier than I did, which was age 13, which seems to be a pretty typical age of when people pick up an instrument. But like I think that between the ages of 0 and 20 is when the real focus happens. And then after that, it's, well, I mean, whether it's correct focus or not is another thing, but I think that that's when it happens. And then after that, it's all about maintaining and learning bits and pieces at a time as you can. Especially, if you've got kids.
Yeah.
But how old are your kids, Andy?
Mine are 3 and 5, but almost in the next year.
Okay, so have either of them gravitated towards the guitar? Because this is where your guitar time can increase if one is exceptionally interested in it.
They both are. They both like music. They like dancing. They like expression. But they both want to do it at the same time, which is an issue because the skill levels and the mental side of being 3 or 5 is very, very different. And the attention span and also the motor skills. So it's very hard for me to separate them, to actually spend some time with them. But I'm very careful not to push it upon them. But if they ask, if my daughter says, can we play some guitar, the answer is always yes, no matter what I'm doing at that point. So I can't really answer your question because they are interested in everything. But I think my son is definitely interested in the mechanics of a guitar. He loves screwdrivers and things like that, and he can really, he can control a tool. So he sits with me often on the bench, and we're talking about the mechanics of the guitar, and then he's interested, and that's totally a different way to what I got into guitar. So it's very interesting for me to see a player, a 3-year-old person, come into it from a physics side. I can see he's working out, like if I press that and I turn that on and switch that, and he knows how amps works, how to plug it in, he knows all this stuff, and he knows what he likes, which is important. and what he doesn't like.
Mhm.
And
That's
very, very interesting, not just as a father, but as a fellow human being, seeing someone press all these buttons and twiddle these things and plug things in, and what does that do? It's brilliant. I feel very lucky when I witnessed that.
it probably to him. It probably feels like Meccano in a way. Just like I used to love Meccano as a kid, and I kind of get that would be sort of similar to someone that age. Trying to get it all to work together and piece it together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish my parents played guitar.
Well, it ain't gonna happen unless you can invent a time machine or something. But then you'd be different, and then we're in this whole paradox of not being actually having this conversation. So
That's actually very true. I'm pretty sure maybe if my parents played guitar, then I wouldn't have.
you'd be a cellist or something.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear you play cello.
No.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
the story is I started on violin.
So did I.
I played for a year and a half, but I wanted to play the guitar, so then I stopped.
So you stopped violin because of the guitar.
Yeah, I wanted to play the guitar. And I always wanted to play the guitar even before I got the violin, but I didn't know that you could buy strings. So I got given a guitar that had no strings on it, and I didn't know that you could buy strings.
That makes absolute sense. If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So who brought the revelation? Like, who told you that you can actually buy strings?
I don't think I ever got told. I think the guitar just came with strings on eventually. Because, as a kid, I just didn't even think about it. You know what I mean? I was like,
sure.
There's no strings on it. How do I play it? You can't. Oh, I'll get a violin.
That's got strings on it.
Yes, I think I was about 5 or 6. And I remember being in the second lowest school. So yeah, I was about 6. Yeah, 6 or 7, something like that. Yeah.
But it's wonderful that the guitar, you see it as a whole piece rather than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's very typical, I would say.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if you've not been around something like that, then you don't really think about just as an example, like when you never really, I've built my own computers now since I was 18, just as an example. But when I was younger, I wouldn't have thought that I could piece together a processor with a motherboard with a RAM and a hard drive. I just saw it as a tower, or in fact, in that time, it was a desktop with a big CRT monitor. I knew that I could connect a cable I didn't know the mechanics of it. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I guess it was the same sort of mentality, but minus 10, 12 years off that learning. Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it?
I was a really dumb kid. There we go. That's.
I think we all were, right?
Yeah.
At some point.
I had some shining moments, but I had some awful dark moments as well. Like joining a band before being able to play. But
is that your son? No,
the rest of them said yes.
Yeah. I must have been so confident, so manipulative. But again, we had fun. That was the whole point. But we have to talk about our sponsor because we want to give away a cereal to Amplitube 5. Browne, have you tried Amplitube 5 yet?
I haven't, but I was an avid, and people know this, an avid lover of the Ampeg SVX plugin from Amplitube.
That's a cracker.
And then they updated it, and I was very upset.
Well, they updated it again.
Yes, but dude, it sounds fantastic. I know it sounds fantastic. There was just something specific that happened. Sometimes when someone updates something, not necessarily a plugin, just like a guitar or an amp or something like that, and it's just ever so slightly different, but you fell in love with it for that one little thing.
Yeah,
that was all it was. It still sounds great. Yeah.
Which version were you in love with? Was it 3 or 4? And then, or did they just do like a within 4 update? Or
No, it wasn't an update. It's when it actually changed. So like the graphics of the program actually changed. Yeah, and obviously it was so long ago that I've had it that generally DAWs now don't even support 32-bit plugins.
right?
That's how far back I'm saying. See, I mean, I had that plugin for what? It must have been 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I must have got it in 2009, 2010 sort of time. It was around that time because I remember it coming out. Actually, it came out in 2006. I used to work at Sound Control, and they had little stations set up in Sound Control with Amplitube and Guitar Rig and stuff like that. I worked at the London one.
Right. Okay.
Virgin Megastore. Do you remember that one?
I went there. Maybe I saw you. You never know.
I was probably not working, probably just playing some guitar, you know.
I was probably, excuse me, can I get some help over here? I need to buy 1 string and a pick.
Nah, it's Mesa dual rectifier. Sort yourself out.
But we're going to give away a cereal, and Dan came up with a wonderful idea on how to give away a cereal. We gave one away last week, and you'll like this, Browne. The guy that won it last week was in the live chat. He won it because we asked for the reason why and what you would do with this plugin. He's writing a song for his daughter's wedding and would record it with Amplitube 5, and we're going to get to hear it in a few months' time. So that was a very exciting moment for me. But Dan, over to you. What are we going to do this week?
I came up with the maybe silly idea, but to ask you guys to create memes about Andy's journey on becoming a metal master. So take screenshots, take any kind of pictures of Andy, of Browne, of myself, whatever, and create funny memes. We'll check out the top 10 and then decide who's the winner at the very beginning of next week's episode. Is that right, Andy?
Yeah, how are we going to know? How are they going to send them to us?
They should ideally tag us. So tag Browne, tag Andy, tag me, and of course, and this is the most important part, tag the Guitar Stories podcast on Instagram.
Yes, so it's up there.
I hope we get a nice collection of memes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to give you this one for free. Yeah.
I like the upside down smile. Perfect.
I think I look like Beaker from the Muppets when I do that. Oh God, that's the meme, isn't it?
Someone screenshotted you. There you go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Thanks for that, mate. Cheers. And yes, you can win if you really do the best one, Browne. It's a true. It's not it is a meritocracy. Yes, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And if someone should not be on Instagram and is listening to this on the podcast, not on YouTube, you can also write an email to guitarstoriespodcast@gmail.com. We'll collect everything and then decide for next week.
Just before we go live, and Dan will fire 20 emails at me saying, "Have you done this yet?" And I'll say no, and then we'll be ever so slightly late due to a technical error.
Bastard.
Maybe you should have a 30-minute technical error countdown for the beginning of your podcast.
You are full of good ideas tonight.
Thank you. It can just be your face on like a picture of something exploding.
Yeah, I like it. Or slowly getting sadder.
Or slowly getting bigger until the entire face is covered in the screen.
To be fair, that wouldn't take long.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you can just do your upside down smile.
Oh, whoa,
Well,
whoa.
this conversation just got less interesting. Browne, we have a habit of going way over time, and when we have guests on, it happens every time, and it's happened this time because, you know, we have the nicest people on the podcast, and we said thanks at the beginning, but also thanks right now at the end, because I've learned so much, and I'm yet again inspired by a guest and a friend, if I may call you that, and
Of course. Yes.
I'm looking
I can't
forward
wait to hang out.
riff hard. I'm going to do it. Then hopefully we get another event in 2021 where we can play and I can actually show you what I've learned.
That'll be perfect. I can't wait. I'm pretty sure that Henning Street in 2021, I would imagine.
Yeah, especially now you've said it on the podcast.
I know, yeah. Heading. Please do Gear Street again. It was a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure that everyone that went really enjoyed it. And this time, obviously, Dan, you get the opportunity to go to Henning's house because you weren't there this year, were you? No, you weren't.
No, we couldn't. Like, first time we didn't go, but if it happens this year, we'll very likely be there too. So that'll be cool.
Few hangs. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
We'll see each other for like 5 minutes a day while we're all running.
Yeah. And we say, we should do something. Yeah, okay, see you later.
Yeah.
And then you spend an hour looking for each other. Oh, no, I'm doing something with someone else. Oh, yeah.
Can you do my video switching? Nah, I've got to eat a sandwich.
Ice cream truck's coming in a moment.
Speaking of which, I've still got some of the poker chips in my drawer down here that I'm still owed videos for next year's Gear Street.
Ooh.
So do I. Good luck with that, my friend.
I know, right? I think that's barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
But no, thank you. It's really great. It's finally great to have a conversation with you face to face, Dan, after all of our years of chatting.
Yep, agreed.
Yes.
Well.
Awesome.
So people watching and listening in the chat, thank you ever so much for joining us this evening, this afternoon, and whatever time it is where you are. If you're listening to the audio, then drive safely or whatever it is you're doing right now. And you're going to riff hard.
With John Browne.
That's what she said.
Bad news, Dan. I accidentally deleted that little video we play at the end. I don't know where it's gone. Google Drive has screwed me over today. So this is the actual real end of the podcast. There's no outro music, no nothing.
All right, I can fix it. On the podcast, but for live show.
Yeah, sad times. So yeah, live people, just imagine that there's some cracking tune right now. And imagine we spoke about Star Wars and everything, and all that. We'll be back next week with more or less technical issues, but we'll get John Browne back on the podcast sometime in the future. Yeah, see you everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.